Hello, welcome in to the On the Bluff podcast. I am your host, Gabe Kuhn. Episode 84 is officially live, and episode 84 will be known as when Christian left us for an entire week. And just served his own. I mean, he just had to get to the beach. He didn't want to talk to us, so he had to get away from us. But it's a long way to vacation. Hope he's having a good time. So sitting in for him is the honorable super producer / co-host of episode 84 of the On the Bluff podcast. That'd be Kenny Stubblefield. Kenny Stubbs, what's happening?
Honorable is a strong word to use for.
I think you're an honorable guy.
Listen, I try to be.
Damn. Okay. You have missteps where you're a sinner. I'm a sinner.
Listen. I have missteps all the time. Like there are definitely moments where I lack a little honor. I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones lately, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
I'll tell you, and so I've learned a lot about honor in Game of Thrones, and Jon Snow is a man of honor, and you know, I try to be. So
yeah, but they sold the soul to the devil, right, to bring him back. Like, is that how that all happened,
dude? So you remember last week when I was talking to you about my back? Yeah, I've been out the entire week. Like, I have literally not been able to move the entire week.
Because of you're an old man and you're trying to do some deadlifts.
I'm trying to do some young man stuff that I should not be doing. So I've watched 7 seasons of Game of Thrones in a week because that's all I got to do right now.
You hadn't watched it previously?
No, I have. I've watched, but I haven't watched it.
Rewatch.
I'm rewatching because I think there's just something beautiful. Like, it's fun because I'm seeing things that I haven't seen before that are just kind of fun. But anyway, dude, are you kind of nervous about Christian a little bit? Like,
what do you mean? Explain.
You saw what happened. I mean, you saw what happened in South Padre. What's going on in Destin right now? There seems to be a lot of shark attacks, man. Like,
I don't know if he's he doesn't strike me as a big, swimmer at the beach. He always talks about his tan, and you're like, let's take behind the peek behind the curtain for the listeners. Yeah. He's the type of guy when we get our stuff set up in pre-show. He's like, I look pale. I imagine he's a sunbather. Well,
let me ask you this: do you think that he went to the tanning beds before the beach? Is he that kind of guy?
No,
is he a spray tan guy? Do you think he's a spray tan?
You don't hit the I mean, just to go to Florida or like go to the southern United States to go to the beach, you don't need to hit the tanning bed. If you're going to like the Caribbean, sure, I can give you a pass for that.
Yeah, I can see.
Even though I don't think it's necessary. I've been there enough.
Have you ever been in a tanning bed before in your life?
In high school, yeah. We were going to the Dominican, and I did it once, and I was like, this is stupid.
This is dumb.
What am I
dumb? What am I doing?
Thing to do.
What a dumb thing to do. No, man. I think Christian. I don't think Christian gets in the water much. I think he gets like the baby oil and like lathers, like to get like extra deep tan.
He's got the tight, like the swimsuit's like just above a Speedo.
Yes.
He doesn't have like full on trunks. It's just above a Speedo.
Yeah. And he puts the baby oil on and he's
like that South American male, swimsuit.
That is Christian. Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there.
So he's safe from the sharks.
He does everything except has the mirror here like those old ladies do in their front yard. When they're sitting in the kiddie pool, that mirror.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's everything short of that.
Hey, hold on. Let me set my timer. I need to roll over. I need to roll over.
Yes. Yeah. He's ready to go, man.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
All right. So he's safe from the sharks, but
we haven't talked in a while, and I had a long respite from work. I saw some nice fireworks out.
Yeah.
In your neck of the woods in Collierville on the 3rd. 4th, I didn't really do much. But then we got to sort of the end of the weekend. We got to Sunday, and we know that I finally announced that I'm having a child and due on December 4th to December 7th, whatever the date is. Wow. Exactly. I think it's 4th. Wow. I think that's 4th, but it's December, early December.
Wow.
But we had the gender reveal.
Yeah, man.
We had the gender reveal, Kenny. Can we roll the video just so? Yeah. Did I have boy or girl? Let's see. Blue or pink? What do we got going here? Oh, that's the end of the video. Let's roll it again. Pump up the crowd.
Look at you.
See.
Oh, you're looking good.
Oh yeah.
Hey!
Run it back one more time. Let's turn down the volume just a tad bit. I need to know about like how did the spike look?
Well, I mean, it looks
What do you
good.
think about
like,
the fit? Is that a good Sunday gender reveal fit?
The fit is nice. You're holding the football like you're an offensive lineman. Like you've never been in the end zone with the football like that. Like you're kind of holding it weird.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of
like a small little football.
I mean, you look like an offensive lineman trying to hold a football in the end zone. So the spike is good for an amateur, but like if it was like how many times have you actually spiked the ball? Like that's my question.
Several times, but not like in a live game situation. It's always been low pressure spikes.
Honestly, per capita though, I think you probably have the biggest group of friends. Like the guys, they're just monsters. Every one of them are big. Like are most of them ex-football players?
Yeah, like literally almost 90% of them.
You can tell.
Even the short ones.
Yeah.
Like my buddy here, Deontay on the left.
Yeah.
He's short. He's like 5'5", 5'6", but he's an ex-football player. He played running back for us in high school. Ran for about 1,000 yards, ran about a 4.5 in his heyday.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he was on the 4x100 team. He was on the 100-meter dash. And
yeah, what are we talking about?
Yeah, but no, so all of us are former athletes. You see Robbie Young there in the back looking swole as hell.
Looking swole.
Yeah. But man, even Evan right there. Even Evan right there in the blue shirt, the light blue shirt. He was a holder for us and he punted.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a good point you're making here. Yeah, all of us. What they told me though, too, on the spike, I went a little farther away from my body because that powder
gonna get everywhere. 100%.
Yeah, once it gets on your clothes and stuff, it doesn't come out. Oh, and wow. I had my nice, Memphis State Pouncer polo on from my friends over at Oxbow. I couldn't get that thing messed up.
That's amazing.
The only thing I had was my right. If you look real closely, my right flip flop or thong, whatever the hell you guys want to call them, it got blue on it. Those things are cooked.
Oh, they're done.
Got blue on them. They're done.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, man. But hey, we're critiquing the whole everything, but you're having a boy, dude.
Yeah, having a boy, man. Already on recruiting boards. I already hit my people up at Rivals.
No, for real.
7 at On 3 at ESPN. Yeah. We're gonna get a recruiting profile set up. We'll keep track of the growth.
Does he have an NIL valuation yet from On 3?
NIL valuations usually they have to be out of the mother before we get an NIL valuation. But we'll see.
We're talking about Gabe Kuhn's son. Like there's already kind of innate NIL value that comes from just being. It's like I'm all Game of Thrones, so I'm thinking.
No, but hey, listen, man. I everybody asked me through it, like boy or girl. I'm like, just healthy, happy baby. But when the boy came out, I'm like, definitely wanted a boy. Definitely wanted a boy.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, dude, that's amazing. How's Taylor feeling? Is she doing okay?
Oh, she's hyped up, and she's into the second trimester now, so she's less sick all the time.
It's amazing.
Although she still has those little things that can't feed the dogs because the dog food stinks, so she'll throw up if that happens. But we're all squared away here.
Tracy, when she was pregnant with Selah, our 12-year-old now, she had a bomb dog nose. She has a bomb dog nose anyway, but when she was pregnant, it was like 10 times worse. This is when I was working somewhere else, and there was a Subway right next to where I worked. And so I'd always go in and get the sweet onion chicken teriyaki. It's a fantastic sandwich. But
the sweet onion sauce stinks though, brother. And all those onions.
Yeah, bro.
She couldn't kiss you after that.
She woke me up in the middle of the night spraying Febreze in my face. Like I'm like that, and and I wake up to spraying Febreze.
Brush your teeth, nasty ass. You didn't brush your teeth before you went to sleep.
Hey man, when you got sweet onion and garlic and teriyaki, man, apparently you can't brush all that off. You can brush it you want, but it ain't going nowhere.
You gotta get like multiple rounds of mouthwash going.
Oh, she forbade me from eating sweet onion chicken teriyaki for barely can eat it now. But
I haven't had any issues with that though.
Yeah,
smelling me. I'm a good smelling fella.
You are a good smelling fella. That is true.
Yeah,
man. Congratulations, though, dude. How is everybody? So, did everybody in the family know, or were they all?
Yeah, we actually did a Zoom for them. The people from far out.
Yeah.
This is what it is. I didn't even really care about the gender. I didn't really want a gender reveal. I wanted to know off the top. But
right. Yeah.
I got forbade from knowing what the sex was until the gender reveal hit. Now, since we know my son is going to be on these recruiting boards here relatively soon, we need to talk about the Memphis football recruiting boards to start this whole thing. And listen, there's good news and there's bad news we have to get to. I'm always a person who likes the good news first. So let's start with the good news for Memphis football on the recruiting trail. They got a massive, massive addition. Rahim Hutchins Jr. ends up committing to the University of Memphis. 4-star on ESPN, high 3-star on 247 and on 3. But according to ESPN, he's the number 34th ranked wide receiver in the class of 2025. 5'11", 160. If you watch clips of this guy, he is as shaky as possible. He is so hard to bring down. He's got great feet. He's shifty as all get out, and he's got really decent hands. He's from Pearland, Texas, went to Shadow Creek High School, but he's ranked a grade 81 on ESPN, and he is part of the ESPN 300. He is number 267 of the ESPN 300. They just continue to ball out on the recruiting trail, and it shouldn't be a surprise with FedEx and everything else, and just where this university stands in the face of the future of college football with where we're at right now, access to the college football playoff, NIL money. It's just all, you still have opportunity if you're a big recruit to come here and play early. Everything's all coming together. And, for Rahim Hutchins Jr., I got to say I'm very excited about this. When you look at what some of the young receivers, young skill players are, going into the future, you have Keondae Henry, who was the 4-star from last year. Yes. You know how Rahim Hutchins Jr., a 4-star from this year. Xavier Johnson is a top 70 wide receiver according to ESPN. He's committed in the class of 2025. I know that we always talk about skill positions running the day at the University of Memphis. It feels like they are continuing that and trying to set the precedent for the future.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see kind of what the next generation of Tiger football players are going to look like in terms of like who are the guys coming up, right? Like you got Seth, you've got Rock Taylor, Demir Blankumsey, you've got all these different guys that are as a skill position guys, Kobe Drake. You've got all these different guys that are going to play for the team and probably produce quite a bit for the Tigers. But coming onto the roster in this Look Alive 25, and like you said with what's the kid? Is it Donde? The wide receiver from Texas?
Keondae Henry.
Keondae Henry. He's going to be coming in. He's going to be playing this year, more than likely getting some run. The future is so bright, man. Like the future is so bright, and it is pretty impressive what Ryan Silverfield is doing. He's getting a ton of really good talent.
Yeah.
And like across the board, it's all really good talent.
And then let's just talk about it this way. Who you competed for to get Antoine Hill Jr., who was at Florida.
Right.
Freaking Florida.
Right.
Like national championship Florida. Right. Now, when you look at Rahim Hutchins Jr. and who you were competing against to go get him, Texas Tech, he said no to. UCF, he said no to. Michigan State, he said no to. Houston, he said no to. Boston College, he said no to. And I think the most surprising one out of the whole thing is Nebraska. He said no to. And if you think about what Nebraska has going for it right now, I think a really good coach in Matt Rule, a roster that's been put together, and think about who their quarterback is. Their first-year quarterback's going to be. Dylan Raiola, the number 1 quarterback in the class of 2024, is at Nebraska right now. So the opportunity for Rahim Hutchins Jr. would have been nice to play alongside a quarterback like that, but he says, no, I trust in what's going on at Memphis. I know what they do with their skill position players. I have about as good a shot at making to the NFL as a skill position player at Memphis as I do at Nebraska. I think this is a better situation for me. I like Antoine Hill Jr. Let me go ahead and make this commitment right now. I mean, it's just amazing the battles they're in right now with certain universities that have always been able to beat them out. And they are now winning those battles because the resources from the NIL standpoint are finally on an equal playing field. And then when you put everything else together, Memphis has a good shot at the group of 5 level to get to the college football playoff. Their coaching situation right now, very stable. Their program stability over the past 10 years, very stable. All those things start to mean a whole lot more when that NIL resource is on a level playing field.
It's unbelievable, man. Like the future, it's wild to look back at just even a few years ago, even last year, just the way that the perception of Memphis football,
True.
right? And to see where it is now, and you go, where did this come from? Like, is it stability? Is it literally the fact that you've got a guy in Ryan Silverfield who's been at this program for that many years? For as long as he's been there, he was obviously an assistant coach for a while under Mike Norvell. Has been with the team as the head coach since 2019. I mean, do you think that, or 2020, I guess was his first, his first year. Do you think that it literally is the stability that's there? Is that what it is?
I think stability and access to early playing time, right?
Yeah.
You know that if you go to some of these other places, you're going to have other 4 stars and 5 stars you're going to have to, compete against. And I'm not saying these guys are scared of competition, but when there's an opportunity that presents itself that, okay, it's about level. I can make it to the pros from here compared to the other place I could potentially choose. When you have that, it's like, why don't I get as much playing time as early and often as possible? And I think Memphis has been very, very fortunate to be in the position it's in right now, where it's sort of their first real crack at getting these big ass recruits. So all these big ass recruits see it and they're like, well, this roster is not littered full of 5 stars and 4 stars yet. So let me go ahead and get on campus and make an early impact. I think that, even for me, I was a 2-star guy. I knew I wasn't going to make a massive early impact, but even for me, there's that far out dream of, hell, as a freshman, I want to be a freshman starting on this damn team.
Yeah, I can do that.
And these guys feel like that's in their grasp and they're going for it. And I like to see that, man. That's awesome.
It definitely feels like that the rules changes. A lot of times rules changes favor the more powerful teams, right? Like the teams that you see conference realignment and how that's impacting college football as a whole. The majority of the Power 5 schools, the major players, the blue bloods in college football are just reaping reward after reward after reward to these TV network deals, things like that. But the rules changes that are happening are really creating a level playing field for all of college football.
Well, no, I think it's interesting because I think there's a soft middle. And what I mean by that is, like, you still have the Georgias and, Alabamas with the most resources, most money in NIL. They can throw it at Ohio State. They can throw it at anybody. So they're still going to get the most of the 5 stars. They're going to wrap those guys up. But then I think when you get to sort of the middle ground of those big conferences versus the top of the group of 5, it's very comparable right now because the NIL money is about the same.
It is.
You just have to decide for football reasons which money you're actually going to take, because it could be 500. If you're a high level recruit trying to pick from some of those schools, you could have $400,000, $500,000 on the table from all of them. So now it's leveled the playing field for some of these schools that have, like Memphis, that have never been in these conversations. Now you get to make that decision to go to Memphis for football reasons because the NIL is right there for you.
Is that not dope though? Is that not dope that these decisions are being made based on football decisions now? Yeah, and then the other part of it, where it used to be, I think, like with the college football playoff, like if you didn't have a chance to play for a national championship, that was a huge part of your recruiting pitch. Huge part.
And it was a huge part of the negative recruiting pitch against 100%. A place like Memphis.
100%.
Even if Memphis was in good position to go get a good guy. So, like, now you can't really say that. Like, if I'm sitting there and I'm at between Nebraska and Memphis or Florida and Memphis, who has the better chance of making the college football playoff in the next 4 years?
Hell, let's go Mississippi State and Memphis. Let's be real.
Memphis right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's like, in the end, I know that Nebraska fans would be like, well, we have Dylan Raiola, and Florida fans would say, oh, we have DJ Lagway. But still, you have a lot to build based off what you've done the previous 5, 6, 7 seasons, previous decade, really. Yeah. You have something to build off of.
Love it.
So I just think it's I think it's some of these rule changes have leveled the playing field for the select few in the group of 5 in those middle tier Power 5. It's blurred the lines. Would I rather go to Mississippi State or Memphis? I think that's a real question now with 100%. The resources being similar in the NIL department.
All right, so you said at the beginning of all this there was some good news, and then you said there's some bad news as well. So let's go bad news. All
right, bad news. I'll explain it after. Peyton Joseph, 4-star offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, who was Antoine Hill Jr., who's already committed to the University of Memphis to play quarterback for the next 4 or 5 years. Peyton Joseph decided on the 4th of July he was going to commit to Florida State. Now, most people had him crystal balled to Florida State, but it was down to Florida State and Memphis. So Memphis fans were holding out hope. but he was the top 150 recruit. You would have felt nice if he ended up here. It would have just furthered the recruiting class and what they're building. But I'm going to tell you with pretty hardcore certainty here. University of Memphis and the staff, the football staff, they knew this was going to happen.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, they were more than okay with it. I have heard some rumblings that I'm not going to just spill out here that they were kind of out on him by the end of the whole thing. I don't know what transpired in the recruiting process fully. I don't know what happened on the official visit fully, but I do have an understanding that Memphis didn't feel like he fit the culture by the end of the entire recruiting process. And I know people are going to probably deep sigh at this, but I'm telling you from a position of having some knowledge as to what happened down the stretch of this recruitment, the University of Memphis and that football staff they didn't really want Peyton Joseph on campus, it felt like, by the end of this whole thing.
Right.
And I don't, he ends up at Florida State. They're fine with that.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can find more interior offensive linemen out there that fit your culture, but it feels like the culture they're trying to build, they want high character guys that they trust in. And even if you're a 4 or 5 star guy, if you do something that,
whatever it may be,
brings your fit culture wise into question,
right,
they tend to cut ties with that person. And I think Peyton Joseph is an example of that.
Talk to me about how a coach, and not just the University of Memphis coach, but a coach in general, like how do you weigh that balance of wanting to accumulate the best talent possible, but also not sacrificing the culture?
Right. That's such a tough balance, man. And you just have to know you. I think there are moments with coaches I've been with, Justin Fuente and Mike Norvell in particular. They take some questionable character guys to try to get some talent on the roster, and they try to manage it as best as possible. Oh, you need to be friends with this guy. You need to check in with us every week, whatever it may be. But I think there's some coaches out there that just sort of get into this point where if you stray away from the culture they're trying to build too far, they either won't have you or they'll kick you off the team in a quickness. And I tend to think, like, I don't know if Ryan is the type of coach that bends the knee or is willing to sacrifice any level of culture to bring a guy in, no matter sort of where they stand on the team. Now, some people could view that as a negative, right? Because there's been a lot of good coaches that have kept guys on because of their talent, even though they've made some questionable decisions.
Right.
But I tend to, I think it's a high character thing. And I think it just shows character within a football facility to not bend the knee to anybody, even if they're the most talented guy on campus.
Right.
If they do wrong, they do wrong, and they should feel the consequences of that. And I think that's where this Memphis football culture is at this current moment. There could be some examples you'll see here relatively soon where guys are not on the roster that you thought were going to be on the roster. And I think that has to do with the culture that's built and the culture that he wants, Ryan, this whole staff, that they want to maintain.
Yeah. I mean, you heard Dan Hurley talk about that at the end of the season this year, right? Where he talked about culture and fit and recruiting transfer portal players. And he said basically that one player can kill a roster, can kill a locker room. Now basketball is different from football, obviously, because there's far fewer guys on the team in a basketball program. So there's, whatever cancer,
a lot more likely for one bad apple to spoil the bunch.
Right. 100%. But I can appreciate the level of kind of an unwillingness to, like the phrase you used, bend the knee to what is, like, this guy is highly ranked, right? But if you are coming to the university or to whatever school you are visiting and you are doing things that are outside of the character of, it's like red flags, right? Like, like you go on a date with somebody, you're going to be the best version of yourself you can possibly be. Right. And so if you want to put your best foot forward. And so if you are seeing some things, if it took getting this kid on campus and saying, there's just some things that maybe we view as problems that we don't see as something that we can work towards trying to fix or even develop through, whatever it may be.
Right.
there's a level of an unwillingness to say, you know what, we're going to let those things slide.
Like, is the juice worth the squeeze, man? It's just, you have to decide that for yourself. And there's different ways of looking at it. You know, like I said already, I had 2 coaches that were willing to bring on some questionable characters to try to get the good end result. It feels like Ryan's not quite there. And I think you see it sort of percolating through the whole program, because football is just one aspect of what they sort of preach over there. Like, they have job, you know, I went over there for a damn job fair and other things like that. Like, they have these, they do a lot of community outreach, things like that. The GPA, I don't know if you've seen that, like, that's stressed over there. That's why I think Ryan, as much as like the fan base has this weird taste in their mouth, and there seems to be some polarizing thoughts on Ryan as the coach going forward and what he'll ultimately be, I think the people behind the scenes at the University of Memphis, I think they love Ryan and what sort of what he stands for. I think people need to understand that. And this is not me like trying to be a homer and culture. I know how ridiculous of a buzzword that is all the time. Right. But I do think that the people behind the scenes, the real decision makers, appreciate what is being done. And that's why a lot of that FedEx money gets earmarked for football. You ask for help, you get it. You know, it doesn't seem like he's been on a ridiculous hot seat this entire time. That's why you see some of these things in the conversation not really come to fruition about, you know, after those 2 6-6 seasons, him getting fired, that type of thing.
Well, but I tell you, it excites me because I as somebody who has been able to cover the Memphis football program since 2019, Ryan Silverfield deserves good things to happen to him. And so this is good. Like, this is where, like, the level of consistency, the level of even the extension he got on his contract, the opportunity to play in the college football playoffs, all those kinds of things. Those are things that are turning in his favor. And I just go, I'm happy that things are turning in his favor, right? That
and I know, honestly, people are going to listen to this and be like, Kenny, you and Gabe sound like the biggest homers ever.
Whatever.
But when you peek behind the curtain, you'll see the exact same thing, man. It's
you can choose not to
like what
it.
I'm saying actually it holds very true to what that culture and what that program is being run like right now. This is how everything we're saying, I'm telling you, is very truthful about the way things are operating over there. I'm not necessarily I'm not saying that that's going to end in a college football playoff, bid by any stretch of the imagination, but they are running that thing with a nice, stable foundation, and they have their day in, day out non-negotiables. It's understood what is going on over at that place right now.
Love it.
Yep. Now I want to transition a little bit because I got to ask a question. I was just thinking about this because the Arthur Kaluma news we talked about last week, he ends up committing to Texas, and you're going to lose out on that David Jones production. You can't really find anybody this late in the game to replace it. So it seems like the roster is what it's going to be. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, this is the roster they're going into the year with: PJ Haggerty, Colby Rogers, Tyrese Hunter. They may add may add somebody along the way, but I don't know if that person's going to, mean much in the grand scheme of things as far as getting playing time this year. But with this finalized roster, I want to talk through this. Like, where do we, in the 6 years going on 7, Penny's been here, where do we think this Tiger roster is going to rank? Like, let's just talk about preseason, really. Okay. Where does this roster rank from a talent perspective and an expectation perspective? Because I can't say it's the best by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that it's certainly a solid, manageable roster that should make the NCAA tournament at the least.
If I were to rank the rosters in terms of, and if you said the word preseason expectation, I would say this is the 4th out of 7 rosters.
I think that's pretty fair.
I think this is number 4 in terms of expectations. Now, maybe in terms of, let's not go expectations. Let's go excitement and buzz.
Okay.
Right? Like, in terms of excitement and buzz from Tiger fans and from, like, even national pundits, I think this would probably be number 4. I think I would put the 2019 class probably as
the number 1
1
recruiting class.
The potential Fab 5, if you will.
Yeah. And then you have Amani and Jalen.
Number 21 would be number 2. So
And then-
Amani, Jalen, you had the mixture of, you had DeAndre, you had Lester, Landers. Who else did you have? Those guys. Yeah.
And then
Probably
last year
would be more.
might be up. It might be top 3.
I think last year would be 3. Yeah, 100%. And then I would put, so then the question lies is, okay, 22 or this year, the Kendrick Davis, DeAndre Williams roster, or this roster.
I agree. That's where it really comes down to for me. I lean
this roster.
I lean this roster. And the only reason I say that, I think the helping pieces are better.
100%.
I think Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams would be the best players on this team if you dropped them onto this team. I'll say that. PJ Haggerty would give them a run for their money, sure.
I think Tyrese
but let's just operate on that thought process. I think you're replacing Keontae Kennedy with Colby Rogers.
Right.
You're replacing
DeMario Franklin with let's say if you think
Jourdain, I don't know.
If you think PJ is the I guess the most highly ranked guy, the guy that you would place up there on the pedestal of the Kendrick Davis level, then let's say you would take Tyrese Hunter and replace DeMario Franklin with Tyrese Hunter.
Yeah, I just think the helping pieces, the role players are better in name and probably better players ultimately.
Absolutely.
But know where this ultimately went to when I was having this conversation with folks. I'm just thinking back through the years with Penny. And if you really think about it, less is more for him when it comes to a roster. Dude. It really is. And the reason I say that is, let's just, obviously the Kendrick Davis, DeAndre Williams roster, less equaled more. They were just consistent through the whole year. No drama. Bam, 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 bam.
Right.
But even let's think about this. Amani Bates gets his back surgery in the middle of 2022. Or was that 2021?
21.
Right? Yeah. 2021. And as soon as he was out of the lineup, that team started fucking rolling.
Yep.
They had no hiccups. The pecking order was figured out. They felt comfortable with each other. And once you add Amani back to that thing, it starts to spiral. It feels weird, but it's just like less for Penny always equals more, because it's like it clears up the waters that were muddy.
Mm-hmm.
Of how do I manage the rotation? Who do I put in when? How do I, deploy certain lineups? It takes the confusion out of it because, hey, I have 7 guys I can trust. I have 8 guys I can trust. I have to play these 8 guys. Bam, let's go. And I think even last year there was, he had some clarity on that in certain games where it's like, yeah, these are the guys I have to roll with the rest of the season. These are the guys.
Right.
Whereas Naquan and Javon and all those guys played extended minutes in certain games. So I've always thought that less equals more under a Penny Hardaway coach team. Just get your guys, feel comfortable with them, set it in stone, move on with your life.
Well, I think what happens then is when you have less pieces to play with, you have very clear strategy on how to practice them, how to train them, how to develop them, how to get them ready. And so another part of, I think, that the excitement that I'm feeling going into the season with this roster potentially being final. I will say this. I do not think the Tigers are going to go and get another piece that's going to play meaningful minutes for the Tigers this year.
Yeah.
I think they are done with that. I think they have their roster of guys, their roster that's here are going to be the guys that are going to see the majority of the minutes. And the beauty of it is, Gabe, is they're all here right now. They're already here. And so these guys that are going to be playing the majority of the minutes are already getting runtime, playtime. They're getting coached up. They're getting, schemes. They're getting film work. They're getting everything that they need right now in the middle of the summertime. And that is such an advantage that Penny Hardaway has not had over the years of his time being the coach of Memphis. He's had guys that have come in early, guys that have come in super late, guys that have come in during the middle of the season. I mean, we're talking about rosters that are on opening night for some of them
that weren't finalized till December last year, in the middle of the season.
So I think while on its face, this roster might not be as like flashy and talented and just top to bottom heavy from, in terms of like the 2021, 2019 season. I would say all the things that are happening right now, the pieces that are in place, the fact that they're all here, the fact that, and I agree with you, less means more. Less is more for Penny Hardaway. The less pieces to play with, the more effective they usually are out there. I think all of this is kind of lining up to be a team that overachieves like the 2022 team.
Like 2022.
Yeah.
It feels very, very similar.
Yeah.
Except I think it's probably a little more talented.
And it's a better team. It's a better team than 2022.
Now,
because if we were to say preseason excitement about a roster, 2022, 2024 were like 3, 4, or 5 in terms of those 7 years.
Right.
But in terms of success, the 22 was the best.
Yeah. Now
right?
let's talk about this though, because this is a real conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
With the less being more motto being what we're pushing right now, there's some drawbacks to that. Not having enough bodies, you run into injuries. Because 2022, the reason they were so successful start to finish,
nobody got hurt.
They had great injury luck.
Well,
great injury luck.
I mean, how many times do we see Kendrick pretend like he got shot on the court?
Yeah, roll his ankle or something. And he's back in the game 2 minutes later.
He's back in the game.
They had great injury luck that season.
You're right. You're right.
Except for the Keontae Kennedy punching the wall thing. That was the only thing the entire year that felt bad. That was a little bit of drama, a little bit of discomfort.
Wow.
But I think there is a drawback to it because I think you do need to have some clarity on, okay, we have some injuries. We have to have somebody who can step up. We have to have a scholarship player ready to go.
And I think they will. I think the biggest question mark that everybody has is in that wing position, the depth of that wing position.
Yeah.
I don't think that Colby Rogers is going to be any worse or any better than what they've had in previous years for at the wing position.
But they don't have much after him.
But they don't have anything after.
And that's why Penny has talked about Nick Jourdain being a sort of more wing oriented player this year. And I get it.
That's the question that has to be asked. Okay, but that's the beauty of, I think, where them all being here right now helps, is because he's going to have those answers going into the season, because invariably somebody's going to have a bad night of foul. Someone's going to have a bad, someone's going to tweak an ankle in practice and have to sit out for a game. That's going to happen. But the fact is they're all here. And so there's not going to be piecemealing of rosters. These guys are going to have planned for that already. And so I feel, in terms of depth, yes, that's a question mark. But you've got, I think, probably the most talented backcourt that Penny has had in Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty. You've got a rotation of 4 bigs that I think are going to be sneakily.
Yes. And I think they're all different. They all have different, unique skill sets.
100% different, unique skill sets. You've got a guy in Musa who, from what I understand, is as dominant defensively as he was in the 21 season. And here's the 20 season. Yeah. Here's the crazy part about him is, think about the last time Penny Hardaway had a number 1 defensive ranked team in the nation.
With him.
Is Musa Cisse in the paint.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, man, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of unknowns, but I don't think they're scary unknowns. That's what I'm saying. I just think that, for me, just having seen different builds of Penny Hardaway coach teams, this one gives me confidence. I have confidence too.
It really gives me confidence, and I like the way they've done it. Do I wish they had a body or 2 more? Sure.
Well,
because injuries could happen, but I think that they have the guys that will play the majority of minutes already on campus.
They're there.
And I think that those guys are more than capable of understanding their role within the pecking order and role within this team.
Totally agree.
Yep. Now let's go ahead and do this. Let's grab a break. And when we come back, we're going to do a little thing that we call the Hot 3. Hot 3.
It's going to get spicy.
All right. So let's go ahead and grab this break. We'll come back with the Hot 3.
We just came off of a 27-win season. You know, it's really hard to remember where we were at sometimes. A lot of times we're so short-sighted. Oh, we're a 27-win team. We need a lot of help. if things break the right way, if Gigi progresses like we hope he does and we think he should, and turns into a blossoming superstar, and Vince takes another leap, there's pieces there that make a Western Conference Finals run very attainable as the roster is currently constructed.
We have one season between us and a 56-win season. I think this team is constructed better than that team. I think our floor, as constructed, this is assuming that Luke Kennard re-signs with no other moves. As our team is built now, I think our floor is 45, 50 wins.
Tune in to the $2 Sports Show with Rusty Witten and Drew Gann every Friday at 3 p.m. only on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
When we talked about the draft, I mean, I thought there were four things, and one of them was just draft Zach Edey at 9. If you like him enough, take him. Grizzlies get him at 9. It's certainly the fit, the need, and guy can play ball. Two-time Wooden winner.
You said it perfect. It's the fit that the Grizzlies needed. They needed a center. They needed somebody who was ready to play right now. I think he'll be to the rest of the Grizzlies starting lineup because barring some type of drastic bad training camp or bad summer league where they're not picking things up, or the Grizzlies bring in a bona fide center, then I would expect for him to be in the starting lineup next season. And all of what happens from now until then is getting him ready for that.
Tune in to the Night Court Podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Yeah,
we're back
in
with the hot three.
Hey, can I say this off top though? What do we have tonight? Because man, the sports calendar, we have that July sports calendar, buddy.
I don't know, man. I'm
not
excited
to trivialize what's going on here and what we do for a living, but damn.
Are you not a fan of Summer League?
I am a fan of Summer League. I am.
I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact that the NBA has become basically a calendar year-round event now. Like there's always something happening, and
we do have the Olympics coming up, which will be
Olympics is going to be fun. Let me ask you this: have you been watching any of the Copa America or the Euro League stuff?
The United States got knocked out, and I didn't really. With the Copa America, I stopped watching.
It's been cool, man. I got a couple of nephews who are big-time soccer guys here in Memphis, and so I've been hanging out with them quite a bit because we've got family in town, and that's all we're watching. And I'm telling you, bro, it's a blast.
Well, I had my man Lawrence Dockery on the show last week to talk about all of it, man. So I even got involved a little bit, but it's the soccer's not been my.
Did he call Greg Berhalter a war criminal?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, he didn't quite say war criminal. He implied it though.
Yes.
He implied it.
I make fun of him all the time. I'm like, Lawrence.
Well, but he's right.
He's right.
Wrong about calling out Greg Berhalter every time he gets his hands.
Did you see the clip going around of Lawrence at the game after they lost? Where he asked him, he said, "Should you lose your job?
Should you lose your job?" And like the USA Team USA SID or whatever the hell you want to call it, the information guy, the communications guy sprints to the front of the room like, "No, don't answer that."
Hey. I'll say this about Lawrence. That man is unafraid.
Yeah, no doubt.
He does not care. Oh, man. So the Hot Three is here. You ready to get to it?
Yes, sir.
Let's do the first one. Grizzlies Summer League is starting literally right now. As we're recording this, momentarily.
7:55 on a Monday. It will be done by the time we watch this at noon on a Tuesday.
So, Gabe, there's a ton of storylines coming into the Grizzlies start of Summer League. Give me your top two.
Oh, my top two. My top one is Zach Edey. What do we look like? What are we looking for? I think there's again those non-negotiables we talk about. Rebound, screen setting. Do those look good? But then the other part for him is, I know we won't see fully what he'll look like alongside Ja, Jaren, and Dez when he's playing alongside Jake LaRavia, Scottie Pippen Jr., and Gigi. But I think there's this thought process around what he did at Purdue not being what he'll do in the NBA. Can he adjust his game even in Summer League to show us what he'll be in a regular season atmosphere? And then the second thing for me is GG Jackson, man. Come on now. Be the focal point. Be that guy. Show us that last year down the stretch of the season, the three-point shooting, the scoring ability, the defense is not a fluke. Show us that you look like a vet out there against some of these Summer League opponents. That's what I want to see. Because if GG Jackson can show me that, I feel very confident about him being a absolute positive mainstay 15 to 20 minute per night guy off the bench in this rotation.
So Grizzlies fans, and I think all NBA franchise fans, are known for overreacting to Summer League stuff, whether it's in the positive or the negative. Which storyline of those two do you think the Grizzlies fans are going to react to the most? If Zach Edey comes out and dominates, or if he comes out and looks average, or if GG comes out and looks average, or if GG comes out and looks dominant?
I think the most reaction you'll get is if Zach Edey has struggles. And the reason I say that is because they want him to play well. You'll get the reaction. You'll be like, okay, I feel confident in him. But if he does some of the things that have worried us about him, then you start questioning everything about his fit, what he'll be in the NBA ever.
Yeah.
And I think with GG Jackson, like whether he plays good or plays bad, like I think people have an understanding.
Well, the whole body of work from last year.
We've seen him do it on an NBA floor. So like we know he can do it. We'll just wait to see when that actually pops off. But I think the biggest reaction you'd get, unfortunately, because we like to see car crashes sometimes and we react to those things. I think if Zach Edey plays poorly, then you'll get a lot of reaction from not just Grizzlies fans, but everyone around the league.
And not even that. If he could, I don't think he's going to play poorly, but if he comes out and looks if he comes out and looks pedestrian, people are going to be like, "Oh my god."
Whatever. What's pedestrian for him? Few rebounds,
I guess. Yeah, like
6 rebounds a game.
What if he picks up 2 fouls? Like, what if he picks up a foul? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to expect outside of. I just don't see in any way, shape, or form how Zach doesn't come in and just like totally crush this. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Just think about Summer League. This is why I don't think Zach. This is why I think it'll be Zach Edey playing well. Because think about Summer League. These are guys who've known each other for a week, and they're not putting in like these crazy sets that they'll put in during the regular season. And when all else fails, what did Purdue do with Zach Edey? What has Zach Edey been used to do his entire career? Okay, we get late in the shot clock, throw it into him, take a baby hook, let's see if it goes in. It usually goes in at a 70% rate or whatever. So I think this style of basketball may not be the best lead-in for him during a regular season look. Because I think he could play really well, but I don't know what that's going to mean ultimately to the regular season. But if he plays decent defense and drop coverage, if he rebounds at a very high level, and if he sets screens at a high level, those are the things that'll carry over. That's why I'm paying attention to those things. I'm not going to be paying attention to Zach Edey's points really in any of these games.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that's not what we need him to do for the main roster. That's not what we need him to do. All right, cool. So we obviously are in the midst of free agency as well, and there's been a lot of concern about the fact that all of these major moves, I'm putting major in quotations, all of these big moves are happening throughout the entire NBA, and yet the Grizzlies have not done really anything outside of announcing that they opted out of Luke Kennard's extension. So are you at all concerned about the fact that there's been no moves made, or what do you think? What are the Grizzlies waiting on for something to happen? Because something's going to have to give, right? Like
they're waiting around to sign Luke Kennard and see if they can trade Zaire Williams and free up some roster spots to see what they can do. I mean, I haven't seen Luke Kennard tied to anybody else. Have you?
Right. No.
Any reports tying Luke Kennard to the Lakers or anybody? No. So I think that, signing Luke Kennard is the only thing really on the docket. Maybe sign another big, but I want people to realize, I know this was the offseason of bigs, but you got your big in Zach Edey. That's who they're investing in right now. So whoever they bring in as like a backup big is their fifth big, because you already have Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, and Santi in front of the guy.
Yeah.
So whoever they bring in is not going to make that big of a difference. I don't view the Grizzlies not doing much as a slight or a bad thing at all, because I think, let's look at the roster right now. I think you have your 8 deep at the very least. You have Ja, you have Jaren, you have Bane, you have Zach Edey, you have Vince, you have Marcus Smart,
right?
You have Gigi, you have Santi. Like, that's not like, there are worse 8s in the NBA, and we're not that far removed from 2 years ago winning 50 games. And I think this roster's
Much better.
maybe better put together than
Absolutely.
that team was. So, I mean, in the end of the day, I know people get caught in like this transaction porn mode,
They
where
do.
they're like, oh, who are they going to go sign? You just want to see a new piece. Oh, how's he going to fit with the Grizzlies? But the Grizzlies aren't really in that type of situation right now. They have to control their cap, deal with trying not to get into the luxury tax. And from there, we'll see what we have. But I think the Grizzlies roster, as constructed, is a top 4 or 5 seed in the West. I really do, as long as health prevails and is you get lucky in that realm.
So if the Grizzlies come into next season having re-signed Luke Kennard and not being able to consolidate any of their other wings and get maybe another wing in, like take Zaire and Jake LaRavia or even John Konchar's contract and ship them off to get another asset, some picks, whatever it may be. Are you confident about this roster? I know you mentioned the top 8, but that feels like even standing pat where they are, bringing Luke Kennard back, that this team is better than where they were 2 years ago in the second in the West run.
And I think the Zach Edey thing is going to be the thing that could sway a lot of this, because we saw Steven Adams being outswayed a lot of everything for this team 2 years ago and then last year. But no, I feel confident with where this team would be, especially if they sign back Luke Kennard and add some shooting, that type of thing. They also made some coaching switches.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, right?
And they brought in the best coach in Europe to sort of run the offense. And what's his name? Let me find it so I don't screw this up. Tomas Acello.
Listen,
Love it.
Yeah. My guys at $2 Sports Show every Friday at 3 p.m. Check them out. They're hilarious. One of the guys was talking about it. He said, not Uncle Buck. It was Uncle Buck said, he was like, let's not forget. He was like, let's not pretend like everybody knew who this guy was. Like everybody's like, oh, he's the replacement for Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
No, not that. I never.
Oh, you haven't seen that?
I've seen the coach and waiting thing deal, but I think that's ridiculous. What
Taylor
I think
Jenkins
about
just
him,
hired
though,
his replacement.
this is the better take, and this is the most obvious take, Kenny.
Let's go with the better take.
Taylor Jenkins has coached a top 10 defense just about every year, even when he had 33 players on his active roster and 55 or whatever different starting lineups. That was a top 10 defense last year. So the defense is a given. What do they need to improve on? Half-court offense. What does this guy do seemingly better than anyone in Europe?
Apparently he's a half-court offense, right? Apparently he's that guy.
Movement, sets.
Yeah.
Like it just makes too much sense. Now, listen. Like, if you want to do the coach and waiting thing, I think you're going a little overboard, because that seems like you're pressing the fire Taylor Jenkins button far too early for my liking.
I would agree.
But I think that's a really good hire for this staff in general, because the defense is a given. You need to improve the sets and everything else. Get more inventive, more forward thinking on the offensive end.
Do you think that Taylor Jenkins revamping his entire assistant coaching roster tells you anything about, maybe is his seat a little warm?
Well, here's the thing. I think we need to define, because a lot of these conversations, don't they get caught up in semantics and what you think of hot seat versus warm seat?
Right. What is hot seat? What is warm
What's
seat?
hot seat? To me, I define hot seat as you're on your way to getting fired. You have to show something now, or you will be fired.
Something immediate needs to happen.
Yes.
Right.
That's what hot seat means to me. You are fired right now. You need to show me something now, or you're going to be fired.
Right.
I don't think Taylor Jenkins is in that realm at all. I think if you're doing warm seat, where you say, well, shoot, this is a big season. If things don't go according to plan, damn, you may have to think about a change of direction. Sure, I can put him in that realm. I think him hiring a whole new staff just tells me expectations are rising. Yeah. It's now or never with this group. Let's get this thing going, get into this championship window, or we may have to find somebody else.
And I don't even know if this is a real definition, but the phrase is always, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. These guys, the continuity of that assistant coaching staff, the guys, and this is how it works. There are legitimate coordinators on NBA assistant staff. Like, there's an offensive guy, there's a defensive guy, there's a big coach, there's a guard coach, and then they have guys that work with specific players. Like, so that's why the I guess the staffs are so big in the NBA. The guy, whoever was in charge of the offense for the Grizzlies over the last however many years Taylor Jenkins has been there, has clearly not done the job. And so that to me feels like a level of, we have the roster that you have in place, Taylor, is the best that you've had since you've been here. We have got to go now. And so we need to make some changes, right? We believe in you. Your defense has always been elite. We've got to get the offense right. And that's what they've done this offseason. And I'm excited about it.
I think that's fine. But I always have thought that there's a lot of people within Grizzlies media and Twitter that have always been so quick to push that fire Taylor Jenkins thing. It's just too much for me.
My whole question
he's done a very good job as the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies.
They're one like end of the world season of injuries away from a 2 seed, 57 wins in a 2 seed. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
My question has always been to people that have pressed that fire Taylor Jenkins button is who? Who? Like, who are you going to go get?
Yeah, and then to your point, like, you bring in this guy that we didn't even know from Eurobasket.
And now you're like,
oh, that's the coach in waiting. It's like, you didn't even know who this guy was until he got hired.
You don't even know how to say his name. Like, let's say it right? Yeah. Like, but it's just like, it's crazy to me because I'm like, even if you look at NBA and the way that the NBA coaching ranks go, there's a recycling of coaches, right? Like, there's always a recycling of coaches if you get fired in one spot. Even Brevin Knight said it on the Night Court show the other week. JB Bickerstaff is a legit head coach now because he's been fired and hired in one offseason. Like that in NBA coaching world is a sign of being an actual NBA coach.
You're a dude.
You're a dude now. You're not getting hired and then having to go assistant.
You're in that Frank Vogel, Mike Budenholzer. Like, you're almost in that category.
You're
Doc Rivers.
The Doc River. You're in that Doc Rivers camp. Those camps.
No, but like the other thing about this hire that I actually appreciate, Kenny, and sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
Tomas Ilsaro or whatever it is. With the influx of foreign talent and a lot more foreign, concepts being run over here in NBA.
Yes.
Go exactly to where this has happened. Bring somebody over that has helped this thing move along in the NBA. I like that thought process too.
I dig it. All right, last topic. Staying in the NBA, let's go NBA broader free agency. We talked about the Grizzlies free agency. Let's go NBA free agency. And this is the direction that I want us to take. There's a lot of moves that have been made, but has there been any moves so far in this free agent frenzy, if you want to call it that has made you go, oh, for the Grizzlies in terms of their standing in the West?
Just the same ones that we talked about last week. And we'll talk about the new ones that didn't move me. I think that, Pelicans made themselves better. I don't know how much better with the DeJounte Murray move.
Right.
I think that the Thunder getting Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, hell yeah, you're the number 1 seed, in my opinion, especially with all the talent you have throughout that roster. Yeah. And then the Mavs going to get Klay Thompson. I like that.
I think he's so
the other one that I could make the case for that will have to do with, one of the teams that helped facilitate a sign and trade. But I'm not saying they're going to be like better than the Grizzlies, but they're moving on up with the assets they've accrued and the people they have next to their one big superstar. Do you see what the Spurs did? They got Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You have Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, 2 vets next to Wemby, and now you have Devin Vassell and Stephon Castle. And you have a laundry list worth of first-round picks that you could use to go trade. I think that's more future-oriented. What I'm talking about, though.
Do you think San Antonio is a contender? Or do you? It feels like they're making moves that they maybe think that they are, but do you think that?
No, I don't think they think they are this year. I think
2-3 years.
They have this slow build. 2 years, 3 years from now, we might be calling them the next big contender. I really do believe that because they have done a good job with getting assets. And they've got this nice little gap year set up to where they can make Wemby better alongside a couple of vets.
Dude, let me tell you, man, Wemby is a freak of nature.
Well, but that's part of this, though, too. Is as much as we're focusing on the here and now, that train, that's coming. It may be 1,000 miles away right now, and you're not thinking about it.
Right.
But before you know it, it's going to be 200 miles away. Before you know it, it'll be 50 miles away. Before you know it, it'll be ready. It'll be blowing past you, and I'm talking for everybody in the West because of how damn good he is. But no, I don't think there's anybody in the West outside of the Thunder and the Mavs that really did anything in free agency that scares me. Right? I mean, am I fair in saying that?
No, I don't even know if the Mavs I think the Klay Thompson signing is a nothing burger for me. Like, I just
but then they got Quentin Grimes, and then they went and got Najee Marshall. Like, they made some nice little moves.
They made some. I mean, sure, they lost Derek Jones, who I think Derek Jones is better than Najee Marshall. They lost Tim Hardaway Jr., got Quentin Grimes. I think that's negligible, maybe. I think OKC is always going to be right up there. I think Denver is about to lose. I think they're about to have a decline. Honestly,
they didn't, but that's what I'm saying. They didn't move up. They moved down this offseason. Lakers moved down. Clippers moved down. So, like, for the Grizzlies' sake, there's only two teams I can put in that realm.
Great.
But there's one that tried to. That I don't know if I guess there's a couple that tried to that I don't know if they succeeded.
Who's that?
I guess we'll start with the Kings. Is that fair? DeMar DeRozan. The Kings got DeMar DeRozan. Bulls. I got Chris Duarte, 2 second-round picks in cash, and then the Spurs got Harrison Barnes in that deal.
Right.
But DeMar DeRozan on the Kings, I want to like it. I want to, but I just don't know how that's going to work out because that team has worked through the two-man game of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. That's how they've gotten to where they're at right now.
It's a weird.
What's been helpful is having a guy like Harrison Barnes and Malik Monk and Keegan Murray stretching this court and shooting threes. Well, now you bring in DeMar DeRozan to replace that sort of three, whatever you want to call it, that Harrison Barnes was playing. And it's kind of like he can't shoot. He's a bucket getting fool. He's a 3-time first team All-NBA guy. Like, he's great. But does he fit with that team?
Yeah, name value wise, you go, whoa, that's a splash. Yeah. But then you look at the way that they mix, and you're like, well, he needs the ball in the high post, kind of face up. Well, that's where Sabonis gets it, and
De'Aaron Fox,
and De'Aaron Fox has to have a lane, and I don't know.
He's slightly better, I guess.
I don't know, man.
It didn't do anything for me to like put the Kings in some different territory besides like low protected seed and play-in. That's what I think about them.
I agree totally. I don't think it moved the needle in terms of their ascension into the top of the Western Conference.
Right, they were a 3 seed 2 years ago. Let's think about it that way. Are they ever going to get back to that with this iteration of the Kings? Probably not.
I mean, we'll see if Keegan Murray has one of his. If he has a come up, because that kid is nasty.
He's nasty.
If he has a come up, they could still be good. They could ascend higher because they've got young kids that are going to continue to grow. But does DeMar DeRozan change that? Does he raise the ceiling? I don't think so.
And he's 35 years old and he doesn't really play defense. And you're like, just strange to me for them to make an all-in move to go get DeMar.
Just makes no sense, man.
And it wasn't really all in, to be fair. I mean, it was 3 years, $70 million, and then they gave up second-round picks because the Bulls are idiots. The Bulls might be the worst run franchise in the NBA right now.
Zach Edey just passed out of the post, and Jake LaRavia hit a 3. Let's go!
Oh, we love that. Now, this is the thing we'll leave these fine folks listening in with. Buddy Hield to the Warriors. Let's talk through it. Him and Steph Curry lead the NBA the last 5 years in three-pointers made.
Yeah, it's good. I mean,
kind of an effort to replace Klay Thompson and create Splash Brothers again, but it's not. That ain't the same, buddy.
But I'll say this: what made Klay so special was obviously his shooting, but his defensive presence.
Earlier in the run, yes. Never gave a damn on defense
during their dynasty. That Klay was locking folks down. And Buddy Hield's never done that a day in his life.
And he's 31 too. It's not like he's like some young spry chicken.
I have a feeling we are going to see a struggling Golden State Warriors team this year.
Yeah. So to answer the question, the prompt here at the top, there's two teams, the Mavs and the Thunder, like we talked about even last week, that have moved in the right direction. And then there's other teams sort of flailing around trying to find their way. And I think the Kings and Warriors fall into those categories. I
think so too. They're heading there. I think the Kings are going to be heading. I think the Kings are going to stay level. I think the Warriors are slipping. I think Denver's slipping. And that's kind of really about it. I think the Clippers are slipping too. I think the Clippers are going to go down. So, And
All right.
let's do it.
We ready to get up out of here?
Do it, man.
Well, all right. Well, you've been listening to the On the Bluff podcast. Make sure you go check out everything on Bluff City Media's page. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe on Apple or Spotify. You can watch the full length video version like you're doing right now on YouTube if need be. But subscribe to the $2 podcast, Anthony Sane show. There's a lot of things out there. Go to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out all of our work. But you know what? Let's get up out of here. For Kenny, I'm Gabe. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.